Welcome, good afternoon to the second session in the concluding series of plenaries. This is a session where we are with 4 directors, and the session will be moderated by my fellow colleague from the PanIIT EC, Mr. Raj Nair. I will introduce Raj Nair and hand over the session to him, and he will carry the complete session forward. Raj Nair, who is the Vice Chairman of PanIIT Alumni India, is a graduate of IIT Bombay and IIT Ahmedabad. He is the recipient of the Distinguished Alumnus Award and the Distinguished Service Award from IIT Bombay. He is known for his annual prediction of how the year ahead will be for the world, for key countries and India, based on factors ranging from technological developments, politics, economics, global risks, government policies, power imbalances, etc. He correctly predicted the 2008 global credit crisis, 2 oil price crashes, the tepid growth in the European Union, India's economic growth year after year. He called out the COVID pandemic and economic crisis caused by it in January 2020, much before the WHO admitted to the median that there is a global pandemic. Back in December 2020, he forecasted a 8.5 to 9.5 real GDP growth for India in the current financial year, at a time when the consensus range among experts was 10.5 to 13%. The RBI recently lowered its forecast to 9.5% just last week. He is a strategy consultant, an entrepreneur, an investor in startups, and a mentor. Today, he will engage this eminent panel of IIT directors in a discussion on how the IITs will prepare for the world of 2035 and beyond. Over to you, Raj, and welcome, directors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Devashish, for that very generous introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the lovely audience we've had over the past 2 days. Wherever you're sitting in the world, you're going to attend a very interesting session on how IITs are going to gear up to remain top dogs in technology and engineering education and in R&D in the rapidly changing world. We have with us 4 of the brightest minds in India in the field of engineering education or technical education. They have 2 things in common. They wear twin hats. They are directors of IITs now, and at one time, they were themselves IIT students. Let me start by introducing each director in brief. They're all accomplished people, so I can go on and on about their accomplishments. Professor Ramgopal Rao is the director of IIT Delhi. He's an MTech from IIT Bombay, and he got his doctoral degree from Germany and did postdoc work in the University of California. He was a professor at IIT Bombay before he took charge of IIT Delhi. Professor Abhay Karendiker is the director of IIT Kanpur. He obtained his master's and doctoral degrees from IIT Kanpur. He taught at IIT Bombay for several years before going back and taking charge of his alma mater. Professor Sudhir Jain is the director of IIT Gandhinagar, and he's an engineering graduate from IIT Roorkee and a former professor at IIT Kanpur. He obtained his PhD from the prestigious Caltech in the US, and he's the founding director of IIT Gandhinagar. And last but not the least, we have Professor Satyanara Rao, Satyanarayana, of IIT Gandhinagar. I'm sorry, it's Tirupati. He's a graduate of IIT Madras. He did his MTech and PhD from South Carolina. He was a professor at IIT Madras before taking over the responsibility to set up IIT Tirupati. All 4 of them are very accomplished. They've written several papers. They've got several awards and recognitions. They've got patents to their rights. So they're eminently suited to tell us what they're going to do to make IITs ready and IIT graduates ready for the future. So let me turn to them. Gentlemen, the twin hats that I referred to earlier make you eminently qualified to look at the future from the eyes of a student, from the eyes of a professor, and from the eyes of an organization leader who is going to bring about change. It's a fact that teenagers, some of the brightest teenagers in the land, come to IITs only to be baked by the IIT system into adults who can take on the world. The world did change, but IIT also was able to change significantly so that they're relevant for the time, with the times. But that was the time when we got enough time to adjust and adapt. It is said that the future is going to be so rapid, and the change in the future is going to be so rapid that we may not get that much time. But I'm sure that gentlemen like you are fully geared, and the audience would like to hear from you what you're going to do to keep IITs the top dogs. There is a prediction by the World Intelligence Congress that artificial intelligence, virtual personal assistants, chatbots, IoT, and so on and so forth are going to impact so much that they will replace 69% of a typical manager's workload by 2024. This is a prediction made 2 years ago. But 2024 is just 3 years away from now. So what it really means is that the role of the manager is going to change significantly, and a lot of what he or she has been doing will not be relevant because it will be done by software and hardware which we technologists develop. And some jobs will be gone. There's an even more dire and drastic prediction that 40% of all the jobs that we have today, what we see today, will be gone, kaput, by the year 2035. That's just 14 years away. 14 years is nothing in the lifetime of a country or an institution. So, but history is replete with examples of how every job replaced by technology has been replaced by many more jobs, at least more than the jobs that have been lost, whether it's automotive or any industry. So I don't worry so much about the fact that there are going to be job losses, because I know there'll be new jobs created. But what these two predictions don't say are two things. We as engineers and technologists are creating devices and software which are changing the jobs of everybody else, every other profession, whether it's a lawyer, a doctor, a banker, insurance agent, or advertising agent, or whatever it is, or even in manufacturing. But it's coming back to bite us also. It's changing our profession of engineers and technologists. And so this two-edged sword, we have to be prepared for. The other thing is this 40% job loss in 13 years might sound huge and scary. As I said, there are new jobs coming. But when these jobs come, we might find it difficult. And we won't have enough time to reskill people who are 40s, late 40s and 50s and 60s. But surely we can do something about the graduates who are coming out now and probably have continuing education for those who have gone or already graduated. So a lot depends upon you. When I looked at the list of jobs that are on the hit list, let's say, I found that there are so many things in common, and you must have realized it too, that it's repeatable jobs that require coordination, scheduling, comparing, verifying. These jobs are done better by technology than by human beings. So that will be, which takes a very large part of even senior people's time, will just disappear. However, when I looked at the jobs that are going to endure, once again, there are certain commonalities, and they all require a few things, like they need leadership, an internal drive to achieve outcomes, empathy, decision-making where judgment is required, not rules are required, and a focus on not just the immediate environment of the job, but the impact of jobs on society and the world at large. But this is quite different from the challenges on people of today, graduates of today. Therefore, I'm going to engage with you or engage you on discussing 4 aspects of this huge change. One is creativity, another is innovation, the third is stretching to meet challenges, and the fourth and the last is startup mindset and critical thinking. So there'll be questions from me to each of you, and there will be a question from the audience. And the audience, as I said earlier, is requested even to put in recommendations, suggestions, and they'll all be welcome. And they should keep flowing throughout the discussion. So let me start with Professor Satyanarayana. Professor, how do you think we can make students, faculty become more creative to meet the likely demands of the future? And when I say creative, I mean have the basic capability to ideate, to think of and imagine things, which will be the starting point of all kinds of change. So how will you do it? And it's distinct from innovation. So what are your thoughts on it?
Thank you, Raj. Thank you for having me over. So, the point that you made earlier, now, why are we talking about creative learning? Why is it important? Because jobs that do not require some form of creativity are likely to be outsourced and automated, right? So we need to be producing these people who are going to be creative and continuous learners. Now, one of the things that happens in the IIT context, and for that matter, all professional courses context in India, is the and also the school system in India, where it promotes a lot of rote learning and the preparation for these entrance exams, where for the 4 or 5 years the students are just focused on just learning the content and learning to write exams. So there is this concern that when the students come in, their creative thoughts or the creative skills are sort of subdued and they have been parked for so many years. And how do we get this spark back? Okay, so this is something that in fact, I had this discussion with some of my colleagues, saying that is this really killing their creative skills? And but the conclusion that from the discussion I got is that no, they've been dormant. Okay, the thing is to how to get it out again. So the important thing is that creative learning, to recognize that it is an intentional process and can be developed in the students. And this needs to be encouraged by the faculty in terms of how they teach, how they do the pedagogy of the courses, how do they bring in aspects of this in the way the students learn their courses. And also nurtured by the institution. The institution also has to create this environment to bring this out through creative curriculums that are, make this happen, and a lot of learning activities rather than just the teacher pushing in material, setting up tinkering labs, then various clubs that make students come together to make things happen. But see, all this requires that the students must first master the requisite disciplinary knowledge and the skills. That is the fundamental, because mastering and integrating different types of knowledge, whether it's factual, whether it is conceptual, procedural, builds the foundation on which the novelty emerges. So the important thing is that they should be very strong in their basic courses. And then through course projects and learning activities that we create, that we bring into the courses to encourage students to think creative and also critically, and to connect ideas across different courses. So this is where the need for bringing in a interdisciplinary way of looking at things, it becomes very important. And a lot of problems today are solved in a very interdisciplinary way, and also in teams, people working together to identify the common themes of the same. So we need to get make the students start becoming comfortable when dealing with unstructured and ill-defined problems. Now this is where the challenge is for us, because now one of the big challenges we have is especially with the current JEE system, where you're doing multiple choice answers, or where they're not really solving problems Getting them to start thinking and through this is where we have a great challenge and how we're going to. So this is where faculty also play a major role in motivating the students to explore new ideas, to think of different ways of doing things, to integrate knowledge across the areas. And so I know many of the IITs are trying to do this. I will give you examples from my home institute, IIT Madras. In IIT Tirupati also, we're trying some of these things. Being a new institute, we're still getting these things. Like they run this set of courses like Discovering Creativity. There's a whole semester course on discovering creativity, where the students are taken through, they're asked to do empathy walks, identify problems to work on, and so on. And then there are other courses like Purposeful Engineer. You take up grand challenges. For example, earlier session, I was listening to the SDG 17 goals. So that's a grand challenge. National Academy of Engineering has come up with 14 grand challenges. So you say, take up these grand challenge problems, identify a problem, walk around on your campus and identify this. Then there's another course that's saying Engineers Saving Lives, where they identify how do I make, so students go. So there are some of these initiatives that are, it has been recognized that we need to nurture this, and different institutes are bringing in courses like this. I'll stop there.
Right. Yeah. Can I just go to Professor Ramgopal Rao? We just heard Professor Satyanarayana saying that creativity is dormant and it can be sparked. What one sees is that every class has at least 10% students very creative. Now, what do you think can be done to make the remaining 90% creative? What kind of interventions do you think will work?
Yeah, thank you. I think to me, creativity is something that will happen when our institutions become more and more heterogeneous. One of our challenges, at least in older IITs, the way they have been brought up is, we are very homogeneous. When we only focused on engineering, we did not even have sufficient humanities or any other disciplines. And everybody, came to the same exam. Everybody was taught the same thing, and they interacted with the same set of people. I think that was one issue that we are trying to correct still. So we are now trying to become a kind of idea factories where, we are bringing industries in touch with our faculty and students. So there are interdisciplinary kind of programs which are now, quite popular on our campuses. We're also bringing in international scholars and students to teach our students. I think these unlike minds, which is what we are all fostering as a concept now. I think when all these unlike minds come together, that is when creativity will thrive. And that is something that is beginning to happen in our campuses.
Excellent. Can I ask Professor Jain? You're known to be a very big, bold change maker. Okay, so what are the kind of things you're doing at IIT Gandhinagar, or what are you planning to do to spark this creativity?
See, the way we see is that IITs are not training institutes. We are educational institutes. And we need to be clear what is our mission of education. We don't see at IIT Kanpur that our educational mission is to prepare a civil engineer or electrical engineer. Our mission is to give the student a purpose in life, purpose to do something good for the humanity, good for the society, good for the community. To give the student, create situation where the student's motivation to achieve that purpose. And
will finally, that create creativity?
And finally, I'm coming there, capabilities to achieve that mission.
Okay.
Now, to achieve that mission, you need to have a lot of capabilities. That may need civil engineering knowledge, that may need creativity, that may need innovation, that may also need other human qualities, ethics and values, attitudes, life skills, many, many aspects, right?
So I'm going to come to you a little later on those aspects.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about creativity, just that one little aspect, what are the things you think can be done, not just by Gandhinagar, but by the whole IIT system?
I think as a first step, you need to let the students be. I think we put too many constraints, too many restrictions. We, anybody who knows finite element analysis, the more constraints you put, more rigid the system becomes. The students cannot be creative if you put them under constraints, if you put them under rules and regulations. Let them flow.
Release them, and let them. Okay, great. Now I'd like to switch to Professor Karandikar. It's been proven time and again around the world that when you have a common platform to share knowledge, share experience, the combined knowledge creation becomes faster. And there are many examples. I don't want to waste time, the panel on this. But what do you think? How do you think you can create a situation where there's a common platform for sharing experiences of the 23 IITs and whereby everybody is lifted? And we suddenly see the whole IIT system creating very creative people and not be people constrained, and therefore they start thinking in one direction. So what can you do as a director to create that kind of a community which shares a platform for learning how to become creative? It's not easy.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Raj, first of all, for inviting me to this panel. I think there are many ways in which, the 23 IITs interact with each other, and this interactions happens at the students level, and this interactions also happens at the faculty levels. But at the same time, I think the interactions also happens through exchange of ideas in terms of curriculums that is there. And one thing that, IITs can do in terms of enhancing the creativity of the students is to, and I think this has happened in many IITs, is to introduce more flexibility into the curriculums. Actually, since the time that perhaps you graduated, over the years, IITs have introduced significant flexibility into the curriculums and have really drawn upon each other's experiences. And the other thing is to introduce, experiential learning, which is, traditionally has been somewhat missing in the IIT curriculum, and which actually throttles creativity to sort of some extent. Yeah. Now, these are the kinds of changes, and although we don't have a formal platform for interactions with the 23 IITs, but I would say that informal interactions at various levels keep happening all the time. And I think we learn from each other's best practices.
So there is a urgent need right now because students have been away from the campus, the young undergraduates. So how do they become creative is a question I'm going to ask you in the context of a larger question. How do we make students innovative? That's a second topic. And somebody has asked a question as to how can we make the undergraduates creative when they're not even anywhere near you? They're not able to connect with you or with the campus. So is there some thought that you can build into your answer to my question, larger question about how do you actually make IITs much more innovative than it is? I know it is hugely innovative compared to what it was when I was a student. And when I say innovative, I'm talking of converting these ideas into and existing elements of knowledge into solutions for humanity, solutions for industry, for business, or whatever it is. But the first part of the question I would like to ask is about how will you share this learning experience of how to deal with creativity when students are away from the campus? They never even seen IIT.
Yes, I think that, of course, it has been a big challenge. And I think we have been grappling with this challenge at all. But, as far as the innovations are concerned, applying creativity to do innovations. As you rightly said, that in the last 15 years or so, there has been a significant change in the innovation ecosystem of IITs in general. In fact, more IITs are more and more emphasizing on translational research, and students have been participating and contributing in varieties of ways. In fact, most IITs have very liberal faculty entrepreneurship policy, where faculty members are actually able to convert the translational research into products and solutions and are able to commercialize. But IITs also have students' entrepreneurship policies. Students are having, various entrepreneurship and innovation summits where the students from other IITs and other institutions have been participating. In fact, during the last 1 year, when the students, the undergraduate students, have been away due to the COVID, many of these summits have been held online, where the students from other IITs and other academic institutions have participated, and those have been really very successful and sort of wonderful programs. IITs and most IITs have now a very strong incubation ecosystem, which actually encourages students to convert their ideas into the startups or to take it to the masses. Most IITs are now also contributing projects of national importance, in the form of translational research, where both undergraduate and postgraduate students have been contributing. Now, another thing is that, the character of IITs have also changed in the last decade or so. Now, at least I'm talking of the older IITs like Delhi, Bombay, Madras, Kanpur, Kharagpur, where, at least 50% of the students are masters and postgraduate students. And they have been really contributing to our innovation and R&D ecosystem in a very significant way. Yes, we have been having difficulty in undergraduate students, bringing back undergraduate students to the campus, but our masters and PhD students, we have tried to accommodate them on the campus as much as possible. And they have been very much a part of driving this entire R&D and innovation ecosystems in the institutes. So I think that is also a change that needs to be realized, because IITs are not just what they used to be like 30 years back, primarily the undergraduate institutions. IITs are also now the postgraduate institutions, where more than 50%, in fact, if you look at Delhi, Bombay and Madras, more than 50% students are actually masters and PhD students, and their contributions in driving the innovation ecosystem is actually quite enormous. And I think the other thing, finally, the last thing that has happened is that there has been now a significant interactions with the industry. I mean, industry academia collaborations has also increased in the last decade. And this has been like a two-way traffic. Industries have come forward to bring their R&D problems to the faculty members, and at the same time, more and more faculty members are now coming forward to take up the R&D challenges that the industries throw at them. So, in that sense, I would say that there has been a very good beginning in the last a decade or so, and I feel that this is bound to accelerate in the next decade, given the overall ecosystem that our country is in.
Thank you, Professor Ramgopal Rao. You have a staggering number of patents, so you're in a position, and I believe you've done a lot of translational research, and some of them startups have used your technology and ideas. So can you give us some idea of what you think can be done across the IIT system to increase the amount of innovative work going on?
I think, if you look at the patents kind of a thing, more awareness is required. I think we are a bit of a late entrance into the patent game. And even older IITs, for example, we were filing 15-20 patents per year, just about 5 to 7 years ago. Now, all the older IITs are filing anywhere from 150 to 200 patents per year. But I still think it is on the lower side compared to the research that happens on the campus. The number of patents we are filing, even across the nation, is still very low. For example, I work in the area of nanotechnology, and I was looking at the 2019 data at India level. For example, compare it with US. US files one patent for every 5 publications in the nanotechnology area, one patent for every 5 publications. India files if you look at the total papers and patents, India files one patent for every 300 publications in nanotechnology area. That's a kind of a vast difference that exists between India and US kind of ecosystems. And I think unless we protect our IP, the startups, the deep tech innovation, all that, will be a far cry. So I think we need to generate that awareness, put in place the processes, and ensure that we protect our IP before we publish it. Kind of.
Okay. Professor Jain, you're doing a lot of innovative work at Gandhinagar. Can you just share with the audience just two examples of some innovative things which will make the audience sit up and feel, oh, wow.
All right. So let me share one example of a program we started 2018. We call it Invent at IIT Gandhinagar, Invent at IIT Jain, where we pick up undergraduate students through competitive selection process from all IITs. And we bring them to IIT Gandhinagar campus for 6 weeks. They work in teams of 2 students. And at the end of 6 weeks, every team files a US patent and an Indian patent application.
Oh, wow.
Now, this whole thing has been done with the help of some well-wishers of the institute who happen to be IIT Bombay alumni, who helped us bring 2 professors from Cooper Union in New York, and they helped us with the technology know-how of making the students do this kind of work in 6 weeks, undergraduates. These could be first-year students, second-year students, third-year students.
Wow.
Because this is a summer program. So imagine these kids have just done first year, second year, or third year. And they are paired after they arrive here. So the IIT Kanpur kid may be working with the IIT Gandhinagar kid, and so on and so forth. I think the amount of creativity that our students have and the capabilities that they have is enormous. We underestimate them. And we need to develop the methods and the systems to really harness that kind of an energy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we could not do it in 2020 and 21 because of the pandemic.
Oh, but this is staggering. Now, Professor Satyanarayana, you got a very new institute where you can almost redefine, or not define, others have to redefine, you can just define. So what would you do for innovation? And this idea which we heard just now from Professor Jain is quite wonderful. We've lost Professor Karendikar's video.
Yeah. So, one big advantage as a new institution that we have is we are starting with a clean slate, and we have all these institutions that have been around for 50 years and so on, which have, and we coming from the system know a lot of learning that has happened, and you can start from scratch. You don't have the baggage and the that you need to fight against to make changes in the system. But at the same time, it's also been a challenge. A lot of these initiatives, whether it is coming into the startup culture and so on, has happened over the years. And, the students also look up to examples of the seniors, how they did it, how that culture has been built in. And this is something that we are a little bit struggling with to get that kind of mindset among these new students, because they don't have all the seniors and there's not enough.
Can I just stop you there, please? Sorry to interrupt. Now, there are some people in the audience who are saying, why don't you involve us, the diaspora, living away?
That's where I was leading to. That's where exactly I was leading to.
Just now a question, a suggestion. Look, we are willing to help.
Yeah, exactly. So
you're not alone.
I know. I was setting up this thing to appeal to the alumni from all the IITs to help us. Create this environment. Come and interact with the students and so on. So here's an opportunity to do that, and we are various initiatives. We have just started off. We have. This year, the 3rd batch has graduated. The first few years, you're just setting up your basic systems and so on. But now we have come to a stage where a lot of these initiatives we're rolling out, and we're able to do it faster than the other institutions, the previous institutions, because a lot of learning that has accumulated. So I would like to use this platform to appeal to the alumni from the older IITs to come and help our new IITs, especially the 3rd generation IITs that we belong to, in creating this ecosystem.
For us at PanIIT, all generation IITs are IITs.
Yeah.
And we're all helping. And you just saw Gandhinagar saying that they're inviting students from all IITs, not just their own IITs. So there's a possibility the system working as one.
And getting his initiatives funded by IIT Bombay alumni.
So let me go quickly to Professor Ramgopal Rao. I talked about startup culture. What I meant is the startup mindset and not the running to set up startups instead of doing core learning. So I'm saying, how do you create this mindset in researchers, in students, in faculty, that is as an approach to learning, teaching, being creative, innovative, outcome-oriented. Startups value time. They know that they have to do this by such and such a date. So there's always this energy, which is so different from the energy you see in old, stodgy companies. Might be doing well, but you go to a startup and you see the energy levels are different. How do you think you can create that kind of energy level in across? Students are easier to create, researchers a little easier than that, a little tougher, and faculty, which has got its own methods because the pedagogy has been set. How will you change all that?
One thing
It requires the change.
you need to realize is, though we are considered to be older IIT, but in the last 5 years, we have created an IIT Gandhinagar at IIT Delhi. We have recruited about 198 new faculty members, 198 new faculty members. We started at least 9 new academic units. We admitted 2,500 additional students. It's almost like a second generation IIT in a third generation IIT. So we are constantly evolving. Those days are over when older IITs are all stuck and they are old. If you think of it, we are pretty young. It's just a 60-year-old institution. And by any standards, these are very young kind of institutions. And I think there are a lot of changes that are taking place, which is also very important for alumni to know, because, for example, if you take education, like what Karandikar mentioned, now we have about 11,000 students at IIT Delhi right now. And we have about 3,500 PhD students. Just imagine, for 11,000 students, 3,500 PhD students at IIT Delhi. That's true of Bombay, Kanpur, and that ratio is different for different institutions, maybe, but this is the kind of a number that we are talking of. When you look at the research impact, IIT Delhi, some of our institutions are among the top 50 in the world for research impact. While people complain that we are not, world class, we are not ranking in those rankings and all that, look at the research impact. We are actually around top 50 in the world. And if you look at the innovation, right, which is again, if you want to measure it by patents, we are filing anywhere from 150 to 200 patents per year. And last year, during the COVID time, we actually earned about a couple of crores by transferring our technologies to industries and different stakeholders. And I think, things are constantly evolving, but we can do more. I mean, excellence has no limit. Excellence is a journey that way. And I think one thing which we are doing now very aggressively at a place like IIT Delhi is, to become locally relevant. There was a time when IITs have been publishing papers, but, you would see faculty on our campuses doing air quality modeling of London air, right, and publishing papers in a UK journal, but not bothering about the Delhi air quality and looking at the Delhi problems. I think that is now changing very fast. We are connecting them to the local problems as much as possible. Just to tell you, 3.5 years ago, we joined hands with DRDO. There are 100 faculty members at IIT Delhi working on DRDO-defined problems and funded problems. There are 265 crore worth DRDO-funded projects which are currently ongoing at IIT Delhi. And there about 150 PhD students are working on DRDO problems. And starting from now, every 6 months, we will be transferring at least 1 or 2 technologies to DRDO. I think that is a kind of a pace at which the changes are actually happening. In some of our departments, for example, every 5th faculty member has a startup. And these faculty members are stretching themselves now. And, the thing is, when you think of old IIT, you think of old faculty. That is also not true. The average age of faculty members at IIT Delhi, it will be around between 35 to 40 right now. Therefore, these are all young people who are driving those changes. I see a bright future. I think it's just a matter of another 3 to 5 years. You will see these, the research that is happening. You will see this impact in the society. Until now, we were visible, but we were visible to our peers. A researcher would know another researcher in these institutions, but society wouldn't know what have we done, to change or to improve the quality of life, for a common man. But I think that also will change in just a few years' time. I think the pace at which the changes are taking place, I think a few years down the line, you will actually start hearing some big things coming out of these IITs.
So what you have said just now has already had a big impact on the audience. There are questions being asked. How can we industry associate with you? Second, we want to sponsor a project. Can you make it possible?
Yes.
So that is exactly what is. I'm sure it's like music to you, but the audience is asking these questions, and they're from industry, and they're saying, "Can we sponsor?"
No, in the last, I should tell you, these numbers speak for themselves. In the last 5 years, IIT Delhi has done 350 industry-sponsored projects in the last 5 years alone. We have centers of excellence. If you go to IIT Delhi webpage, you will see the centers of excellence which are created by our alumni and also by the industries. And through these centers of excellence, people come together and work on the problems which are defined by that particular alumnus who has funded that COE or the industry which has initiated that COE.
Okay.
All these mechanisms are now possible.
It sounds fantastic. Before I go to Professor Jain, I think Professor Karandikar wanted to say something while Ramgopal Rao was talking. Yeah.
I was just I wanted to add to Ramgopal's things, and there was a question in the chat box also. I saw that what about this Bay Area US universities are connected with the startups. So I just wanted to say on each of these older IITs like Delhi, Bombay, Madras, and now Kanpur. In fact, in IIT Kanpur, we have achieved the historic milestones of having 100 startups on the campus in their portfolio. Currently, we have over the last 6 years about 162 startups, but currently which are in the incubation phase are about 100 startups, and this is the same. I know that in Bombay and Delhi. So there is a large incubation ecosystems which is happening, and large number of alumni are actually acting as mentors to these startups. Of course, IIT Kanpur, is mostly taking the help of IIT Kanpur alumni. Okay. But actually, on this forum, I would like to appeal that we will welcome the mentorship from alumni of any IITs.
Okay. And actually, PanIIT has got a program to provide mentors across to all the IITs. We just started off with the younger IITs because they don't have too many alumni. But we were happy to spread it across to all the IITs. Now, finally,
can I add just some numbers to that? In the startup, India is ranked 3rd right now. There are lots of startups happening here. IITs are ranked 4th in the world for unicorn founders. Now, if you look at which institutions have produced highest number of unicorns, all IITs together have come 4th in the world right now. So, many of these things are happening.
So something for us all to be proud of, and it probably beckons for a better future. Now, Professor Jain, we discussed so many things so far. One of the things is, how do you actually make students and faculty aim for stretched goals? Can you provide some challenges? Like in the US, it's very normal for DARPA to give out challenges. And there's a historical reason why these things are happening. Are you doing something like that, or do you think that something like that is possible in IITs?
See, certainly. At IIT Gandhinagar, one of the key ideas that we implement is that when the new student shows up after 12th class, we say that we will treat you as adults and we will hold you accountable for your actions and let you run your life, which means we will not tell you to come to class. And we will not tell you why you are not submitting assignments. We will let you fail. And if you fail enough courses, you may have to leave. And we will not deal with parents. Absolutely. We don't deal with parents. Right? Now, it is easy to say that, but we actually implement it. So in March 2020, we said to the students, just as we are not asking faculty to vacate their apartments, we are not going to ask you to vacate your hostels. And IIT Gandhinagar never asked students to vacate the hostels. At any given point of time, we had anywhere from 30% to 65% of our students in the hostels. Now, that is stretching. Because now the students are running their affairs, running their life. Today, when a student of first year, we have 65% of my first year students in the campus. When my students want to go to city, the permission is not given by the wardens or the deans. The permission is given by the student leaders themselves in a systemic manner, right? So the way I see it is that we have to be ourselves problem solvers. We have to run the institutes in a stretched manner, what you may, and the students will follow. Students are much smarter than what we credit them with. So my contention here is that we must trust our young faculty, young students. At IIT Gandhinagar, for example, the faculty recruitment committee is chaired by an assistant professor. A full professorial candidate also finds sometimes very amusing that an assistant professor is the gatekeeper for further discussion on his her application. So to my mind, that is stretching, letting them take responsibility, letting them take initiative, and treat them as your equal. Give them the autonomy, give them the authority, and let them be. I think that is what we need to do.
Great. Now, in view of the kind of questions that have been coming up, let me ask each one of you to answer one question. That is, how would you like industry and alumni to help you and support you? Some concrete answers, maybe 1 or 2 points. Maybe you can think about later and connect with PanIIT. But what is the topmost point that comes to your mind? We can start with Professor Satyanarayana, then go to Ramgopal Rao, to Abhay Karendiker, and then to Sudhir Jain last. Over to you.
Yeah. So now, see, I think a lot of the people and also the alumni are not aware of the extent of interaction we have with the industry. Okay, and that's been pointed out also by my colleagues earlier. But definitely there is a room for much more interaction with the industry. And
so one suggestion.
Yeah.
One wish from your side.
Yeah. So we wish that more of them. Now we have started off this professors of practice and so on, where we're getting people from the industry to get more engaged with the institute, not only in coming and teaching and getting involved in projects and so on. So we wish that that the industry actually, the big challenge is in some of the situations, the industry is ahead of the academia in some of the technologies and other things. And if the industry can spare these people to come and teach a full course or a part of a course, and also interact with the faculty and the students in making them aware of the industry problems, I think that will be a great first step.
Professor Ramgopal, what will be your one big wish?
I think one thing that at least 3 alumni have done recently at IIT Delhi, which is what I hope can be replicated on a larger scale. Some of these alumni, they came forward and said, we want to solve this problem. For example, there is one Arun Dugal who lives in Delhi, and he lives in Delhi and he breathes Delhi air and he finds it very polluted. He said, can I do something with IIT Delhi to solve the Delhi air problem? And he has gathered, through his friends and contacts and all of that money, and he has created a center of excellence for research on clean air. A lot of things are happening because of that, because alumni have come forward, of connecting with faculty and students, connecting with the government and trying to solve the Delhi air quality problem. And similarly, another alumnus, Suman Sinha, created a center of excellence for renewable energy because he runs a big company and he feels that IIT Delhi must do a lot more work in the renewable energy. He has again gathered all his contacts and he has put in money, connected all the faculty. Now a lot of great things are happening on the renewable power. Another alumnus, Yardi, he runs a big company on smart kind of buildings and all that. He again initiated a major activity for our faculty and students to work in that area. I think that is where the passion, also gets associated with the funding they provide. Their networks become available to us. I think that is how we can make an impact. I want to see that happening more and more.
Oh, great. Professor Karandikar, your wish?
Yes, I think what Ramgopal and Professor Satyanarayana have already mentioned, how alumni and industry can get involved either in the form of professor of practice or working, with the faculty members in sponsoring the research. I would like to mention 2 more addition to that. One is, I think alumni, and particularly those alumni who are working in the corporates, can really work with the faculty members to see that some of the research that is getting it into the IITs, that can help commercialize and, transfer to the industry. In fact, in the last 10 years and earlier, as Ramgopal has also mentioned, that lot of research has happened, but more needs to be done in terms of filing the patents, IPR protections, commercializations, evaluating the technology for licensing, and then, determining, what is the correct licensing practices. In all these things, the alumni who are working in the corporate R&D or in the corporates, I think can really greatly help. That is number one. Number two, recently, apart from Professor of Practice, IIT Kanpur board recently introduced a position where faculty members can hold joint appointments with the industry. So in fact, they can hold dual designations and joint appointments. And this will really allow, faculty members to maybe work for 9 months in IIT and maybe 3 months in the industry and maybe in the summer. And this will also provide an opportunity for mobility of faculty members from the industry to the institute. I think that needs to happen much more, which is very much there in the US university, a seamless mobility of the industry professionals to academia and vice versa. And I think that is something that we need to, it is happening in a very small level now. You will find 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 professor of practice or 10, 15, adjunct faculty members. But I think this needs to really happen, in a very, very significant way, where we can say there are 100 faculty members, who are from the industry, and maybe 50 academics, are spending some time in the industry. So I think this is what is needed.
That's superb. Professor Jain, even if you got 5 wishes, tell us one.
Yeah. So IIT Gandhinagar is a very outward-looking institution, and many IIT alumni, senior IIT alumni, actually are working with us in their Vanprastha Ashram concept, where they live in the campus and they help us build relationships with the industry, with the alumni. And as a result, we get a lot of initiatives, ideas, and funding from the alumni. That's what I was telling you about Invent at IIT Gandhinagar was entirely an alumni effort. So I would have one wish. Anybody who wishes to see an interesting institute, come and visit us. Experience it. See if there is a vibrant campus. Do you see vibrancy in the security guard, in the housekeeping staff, in the student, in the faculty? Because it doesn't happen in isolation. You can't have a dull-looking staff and very bright-looking students. It has to be the entire ecosystem. And I challenge the alumni, if you are interested, come and spend a couple of days. Experience it. Just start a coffee before you start dating and build a relationship. I think let's start somewhere. Let's start with a cup of coffee together.
Okay. Cup of coffee, the offer will be taken up. I think we'll from cup of coffee from all the IITs, not just Gandhinagar. So it's been a fantastic conversation, which makes us feel that we are really on our way to becoming a very powerful system. We already are. It'll become more powerful and more relevant. And I don't want to summarize all the things that you discuss under the 4 heads: creativity, innovation, stretching, and whatever. I just repeat the last round of discussions. What I heard you say is that you'd like to have a very concrete kind of interaction with alumni and industry, and you got some specific suggestions, and we'll sit down with you and figure out how we can actually put it to action. We'll talk to our alumni also. We invite practical suggestions. So these 4 things. One is IITs want professors of practice, people from industry to come, share their knowledge so that most relevant things that are happening in industry get conveyed to IITs, and IITs can do something about it. Similarly, as there has to be the other way around also, for a dual designation whereby the professor is on campus for 6, 8, 9 months and is in industry for 3, 4 months. That will create a tremendous bond and value creation both ways. So if alumni and industry who are participating in this conference can hear what we just said, please take action, and all the IITs will be happy to get to this. Second thing is, there are local problems everywhere where the IITs are. There are 23 IITs, which means almost the whole country. Can alumni proactively look at those problems, get organized with the local government, with the alumni to fund, get involved with the institute, and so that faculty and their research facility can be used to solve that problem. And these are real possibilities. As Professor Ramgopal Rao said, air pollution in Delhi. Every city where the IITs are there, there's a problem, and alumni can do something. The third thing is, how do we actually, can alumni participate actively by trying to commercialize and I'm using a big word, one word to capture a lot of things, commercialize the research which is going on in IIT. It will encourage the faculty and also benefit industry. And lastly, come to the campus. Don't sit at a distance and ask, what do you want from us? Come to the campus, experience the campus, get inspired, and then say, let's do this or let's do that. So with that, I'd like to conclude this session. Thank you very much, all the directors, for having very clear ideas about how to take IIT and not suddenly get stumped as, oh, what do we do in 2040? You're pretty clear right now itself, and you want to engage with faculty, whether it's alumni and industry, to make this IIT, the whole IIT system fantastic. It's already fantastic. It can become much better. Thank you very, very much once again. And thank you for the audience for the numerous suggestions and questions that have been asked. It's been a great pleasure for me to be with you. And I hope in the future, many more alumni and industry participate with IIT to make good for them, good for IITs. Thank you very much. And over to you, Ashish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Professors Ramgopal Rao, Professor Jain, Professor Karandikar, and Professor Satyanarayana. I will not take much time. I think you have had a detailed discussion, and I think at a very depth where I would not like to venture into, but I think all of us have gained out of this discussion. There are certain thoughts which I think have resonated with all of us. So with that, I would like to thank you all. And we will definitely be now working even more closely with all of you to figure out what our next steps are going to be. Thank you very much. Good evening and have a nice day.
Thank you.